All right, our Hangout is live, gentlemen. So welcome everybody who's coming and hanging out with us for our awesome Wargamers Hangout, the only place to come hang out. Adam from Tabletop Minions was nice enough to join us this week. Adam is the only one in this Hangout who got to go to Adepticon, and so Dan and I, of course, are horribly jealous, but I really want to see how your time was. I know you've uploaded some videos, which everybody should check out at Tabletop Minions, obviously, but straight from the horse's mouth, how was Adepticon, Adam?
It was good. It's always been good. I've always enjoyed going to it, and this year it's been. I think this year it was probably the biggest it's been. I would, if I had to guess, and I'm certainly a guessing man. I would say it was probably about as close as to 4,000 people as they could get. We got there on Thursday morning, just before lunch. There had been a thing going on the night previously. Games Workshop had done kind of a news sort of like presentation thing, and they talked about a bunch of new stuff. They had talked about Shadespire and Shadow War both at Gamma a couple weeks previously, but they showed off Shadespire, which they didn't really do at Gamma, and people got to play it and try it out and things like that. And it was really interesting from what I understand. The people that I talked to said they were really actually pretty impressed with Shadespire. I talked to Terry Latorco, that Terry girl, she and her husband, who both been in the past worked for Games Workshop, like at stores and things like that. And but they've been out of Games Workshop in general for quite some time. And they were saying that that could be the game that might maybe get them back into Games Workshop to some degree. So I thought that was kind of interesting. They were really impressed with it. So, and they talked about the Games Workshop talked a bit about upcoming stuff for 8th edition and things like that. So that was kind of interesting to just have them do like a press conference. You know what I mean? Like that's just something the Games Workshop's not been doing for a long time.
Yeah. That's kind of cool. I mean, It seems like they're changing tack. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. With the new regime, they've definitely been doing that. So it's interesting to see, and I wish I would have been there on Wednesday night, but I didn't know to what degree things were going to occur and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, it was cool. And then, so we got there on Thursday morning, like I said, just before lunch, and we had to wait a long time for our hotel room to be available. So that was a bit of a bummer, but eventually we did get in sometime around 4 o'clock. Most of that time, actually, we spent hanging out. So like where the main, hotel part is, where you come in and there's the reception area and all that kind of jazz. And there's this long hallway that goes towards the convention center. And in that long hallway, there were demos being run by a bunch of different companies. And one of them was Wreckage, who are locals to the Chicago area and kind of friends of mine. I've been working with them on and off now for quite some time. And Matt, who is one of the two main guys from Wreckage, he is the moderator on my live show on every other Sunday and stuff. So yeah. So anyway, we were just basically hanging out at their booth and just shooting the breeze and wasting time until we could finally move all of our stuff. And by all of our stuff, I mean all of my stuff up into the hotel room. I just because I only have to drive about 3 hours to get to Adepticon, I bring everything. I mean, I didn't bring this phone, but I did bring these headphones, not this laptop, different laptop, just hundreds and hundreds of pounds of junk, lights and tripods and multiple cameras and the whole deal, which much of it I did actually use, so that was good. I did a video that went up actually this morning where I was interviewing the Wreckage guys in the hotel room. And so in that particular situation, I got to use the microphones and the lights and all the shenanigans that I had brought. So that was at least sort of useful.
Just like barely above the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because it's just me and another guy in there, and then he brings like a suitcase and a backpack, and then I fill the rest of the car. And then it was worse probably on the way back because I brought back so much stuff between the things that the things I bought at the convention, that kind of stuff. But so yeah, it was a very good convention. I really good class on, I want to say it was Friday, and it was about converting. I thought was going to be about more along the lines of just like how to cut things apart and glue them back together differently in different poses and stuff like that. But it was actually a bit more about sculpting and more about not green stuff, because the person who was teaching the class, which was a guy named Raphael from Massive Voodoo, he was teaching the class, and he's a German guy, and he's super good at this. But he was teaching us more about sculpting with this stuff called Magic Sculpt, which works like green stuff in that it's two-part and you squish it together, but then it's water-soluble until it gets hard. Brush and get it real wet, and you can use it to blend the stuff once you've put it into place and smooth it all out and everything like that, and get it where you want. But then once it's hard, you can cut it, file it, carve it, and it's not water-soluble anymore, basically. So that was really kind of interesting. And when I got back to town, I went on to Amazon and I ordered some. And yeah, it was shipped to me from a taxidermy supply manufacturer, which I thought was a little interesting. I got it shipped at work, and people were like, "What's with the taxidermy?" I'm like, never mind. But
don't worry about it.
yeah, don't worry about it.
Huh.
So yeah. But it was interesting stuff, and that was like one of the best classes I've probably ever taken at Adepticon. So that was also really cool.
I always forget that Adepticon has classes.
Yeah,
I mean,
tons of them. And I usually try to take at least one a year. I have to admit that I may next year not actually sign up for anything. Like this year, I signed up for that one class and 2 demos, and I only made it to the class. Now, admittedly, the first demo was on Thursday, like at 2 o'clock, and I was still in the hallway trying to get into our hotel room, so I couldn't really do it. And was like on Friday night at 6 o'clock. I don't know what the heck I was thinking. That's prime going around talking to people and going to dinner and doing that kind of stuff and all that. So that was, yeah. But I think next year, I think I may just plan on taking, just leaving myself open to be talking to more people, meetings and stuff like that. Because there's so many people there that you see, especially if you start going, year after year. Like you guys would know people there just from the YouTube stuff, obviously, but other people who come to this convention who aren't YouTubers, they come into the convention and you start kind of like meeting people that you then see again next year and see again the year after that. And it's the only place you see them,
Yeah, your con friends, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So it works out. It's really cool. And because of that, I'm just I think that next year I'm going to probably not do much in the way of any kind of seminars or anything along those lines, just to keep myself open. And also because, you pay to do a lot of these seminars, and then I'm just going to probably end up not going to them anyway. So,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, it just the timing never seems to work out because you'll end up wanting to go to dinner with some people, or whenever I've been there, I've lost track of time horribly and get like 4 hours of sleep for the entire weekend.
Yeah, and those 4 days, they went by pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Adam,
it's interesting.
Did you get the after-con sickness?
I didn't. I don't think. Although I do, it's been more than a week now. It's 2 weeks actually, roughly, since But I have a bit of a sore throat right now, but that could be completely unrelated. It could be allergies or whatever.
I don't know if that means you did Adepticon right or wrong.
Yeah, well, I shook a lot of hands. I'm not going to lie. I mean, like last year when I was there, I had about just over 17,000 subscribers. This year when I went there, I was just shy of 44,000 subscribers. And so I talked to a lot more people. I had a lot more people coming up and saying hi, and I enjoy the channel, and we would have conversations and stuff. So that happened a lot. I was in a lot of selfies. That was kind of fun.
Nice.
But I talked to a ton of people, and it was kind of great to do that stuff. I had some kind of meetings with a couple different companies, and we'll see kind of where that kind of stuff goes. I mean, it's just a great place for that kind of stuff. But if you're not a dork like me doing the YouTube thing and all that stuff, if you're just a person who wants to go and have good convention, experiences, and you're into wargaming, I think it's easily the best, in my opinion. Gen Con is obviously way bigger, but it's everything. It's RPGs, it's CCGs, it's board games, anime, all kinds of crazy junk. Lots of cosplay. They've added a little bit of cosplay to Adepticon now. There's like a small cosplay kind of contest, I guess, that's happening.
Well, Malifaux
But,
always had one. Is this a general, like just Adepticon-wide one?
Yeah, I believe this is the first year for it, and I didn't see a ton of people. I mean, they didn't do the big parade. Like, there's a parade every year at Gen Con, and they like to do it Saturday afternoon. And I wasn't at Gen Con last year, but 2 years ago when I was there, they did it in a spot where it was if you were not in the dealer hall, you were not going into the dealer hall for an hour and a half, because all these people were going to be walking by slowly in costumes, some of them which are amazing and astounding, some of them which are duct tape. And if you try to just say, I'm just going to just go, you get yelled at. So I believe they've moved it for Gen Con. This last year, they moved a lot of stuff into the Lucas Oil, where the Indianapolis Colts play. It's like right next to the convention center. So they've moved a bunch of stuff and started to expand out even outside of the main convention center in Indianapolis. So I hope that they moved most of that. I know that they moved all the True Dungeon stuff over there. Hopefully they moved a bunch of the cosplay stuff over there, or built a bridge or something. It's really annoying when you're like, I just want to go buy things over there, and they're like, no, not for an hour and a half, because all these people are going to meander by. So,
right. But Gen Con's like 60,000 people or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and that's becoming. I'm going this year to Gen Con, but the only reason I'm going, there's two main reasons I'm going. Number one is because it's the 50th anniversary, and I was at the 25th, so I feel like it's kind of a bookend sort of a situation. And number two is because a good friend of mine is rabid about hotel rooms and getting the best ones possible, and it's like a second, it's like a part-time job for him, where there's 10 of us that are going, and up till about a month ago it was going to be 5 of us each in separate rooms. And then he told us that through checking the forums and hitting the housing site for Gen Con and doing all this stuff, he found us a single room for all 10 of us. And I was like, we're all going to die if you move 10 guys into a single room. And then he's like, well, it's the presidential executive suite. It's 1,200 square feet and it has 2 bathrooms. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's bigger than most of the apartments I've had in my life. So yeah, that's fine. We can probably do that.
It seems like you're all sleeping like puppies, like just in a big pile
it's probably
in the
fine.
middle.
It'll be, we won't have to, we'll save on blankets. Yeah, well, yeah, because it's Lord knows it's chilly in Indianapolis in August, so we should be fine. Yeah, but again, like I said, the only reason I'm going to Gen Con is because of the 50th, and because there's a guy who does the good work of finding us a good hotel room and stuff like that. Because right now it's nearly impossible at Gen Con. Adepticon, you have to be on the ball, but even if you don't make it into the main building, which is where the convention center is and the hotel rooms are upstairs, you can go to, there's several hotels nearby that plenty of people go and stay at, and then and by nearby, like half a mile. Like there are people that walk.
Oh, it's super close. And they'll usually have shuttle service that will offer to take you up to the other hotels. Like they kind of all get along in that way. I know the last time I went, they bumped me because even though I had a room there, they had some issues with booking, so they just put me somewhere else.
Yeah, and they still have some issues once in a while. I think that the hotel never believes that Adepticon is going to sell it out, like right from the get-go, so they don't unlock everything. You know what I mean? They have like a they make their Adepticon block not be the entire hotel. They do like part of it, and then it sells out immediately, and then everyone freaks out, and they're like, well, we'll unlock more, and it's kind of weird. But there was actually, because of that, there was an interesting video that's been getting around. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not. It's a guy, he's got a YouTube channel, and he's into motorcycling, and he's not a biker per se. It's not like Sons of Anarchy. He's like a guy probably in his 50s. He and his pals were staying at the hotel during Adepticon, but didn't know what it was. And so he's like filming with his phone for his YouTube channel, and he's talking about, he sees all the painters, like right when you come in by the main doors, all the painters hang underneath the escalators. Yeah. And so he's like, oh, this is crazy. I've never seen a convention like this before. And then he keeps traveling in, and you go down the hallway, and then there's like, a room full of like War Machine. And then he goes down the next room, and it's all Age of Sigmar and Kings of War and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, wow, this is huge. And he still hasn't even seen like the first like fifth of it yet. You know what I mean? Like, and then he finds like where the bits guy is, and then he's like, and then he goes into one of the big, huge rooms, and he just keeps exploring, and he's like, it just keeps going on, and he didn't realize that there were that many people that were, you know, doing this kind of stuff, and like he was a little dismissive of it at first, like, oh, here we're at NerdCon. He said that a couple of times, but by the end of it, he was just like, oh, this is really cool stuff, and so it was kind of interesting. It hopped around a bit on YouTube, on Facebook. I saw a couple different people who were at Adepticon link to it.
Oh, nice.
And I may have seen the back. What's that?
Mario was in the video at some point. They're like, oh, Mario's like,
oh yeah, yeah, right. Your Mario was in that. Yep. Yeah.
It was
it was interesting. Like there were some people in the comments, I guess, that were like ticked off because he's like, well, you called us nerds, and then a lot of other people I recognized were like, yeah, well, we call ourselves nerds. That's how it works. It's, you know, it's not that big of a deal.
I know it's not exactly a derogatory term. I mean,
not particularly anymore. No.
And
so
yeah,
but it was
like it was like,
oh yeah, no, he was self-deprecating as well.
Yeah, it was like, oh yeah,
exactly.
Oh wow, oh yeah, this is actually a really cool thing, and it was like they hinted at it, and they're like, oh, we were so clueless.
So we're just watching like somebody from another like world just sort of get turned on to the world of like miniatures in this video.
Well, yeah, he was like walking through like the Bits guy's big area out in the hallway, and there's a lot of, not only does he have all those little bags of bits and all that stuff, but he also has lots of pre-painted stuff that other people have sold to him that are out there, and he's like looking at all the things that are pre-painted, and he starts picking up Space Marine bikers, and this guy, because he's into motorcycles, he's like, oh, check this out, is this a motorcycle? And he's going on and on, you know, all that stuff. But yeah, I don't know, I mean, it was the earliest part of the video, there were a lot of jump cuts, like really quick in a row, and so that was a little jarring, but he got over that relatively quickly. So if you do end up finding the video, you know, give it a watch. It's kind of funny, but it is interesting to see from somebody else's point of view, you know, what we're doing there. We all look at it and go, oh yeah, of course, this is what you would do. But other people look at that and don't, you know, but I don't know. There's so many different little sub-genres of everything out there. You know, I'm sure that there's a convention at least as big as Adepticon for scrapbookers or people who are into stamping, or, you know, I mean, I'm sure there must be. There are conventions. My mom loves to watch like crime TV, and she tells me about CrimeCon, which is like everybody goes to like who are fans of crime TV, like true crime television. They go to these conventions, and I don't know what they do there, but they do something. So
CrimeCon? That just sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, it's not necessarily the best name, but I suppose it's, you know, the people who know what it's about.
And then the people who don't know what it's about and go anyway.
Right. But nobody has any idea what Adepticon means. You know what I mean? If you're not in, and to be fair, many of us don't even really know what Adepticon means. From what I understand, it comes from the original name of the club that started the convention 15 or 16 years ago. It was called the Windy City Adepts. So that's why they decided to call it Adepticon. And it was originally, I believe, just a 40K tournament that just got huge and crazy. So
it's a good name, you know?
Yeah, and it's working out well. I mean, a lot of conventions are like that. Like Gen Con, people don't know what Gen Con was for, and it was just short for Geneva Convention, which was a thing from pre-World War II, but it also was originally started in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. So, you know, it's all that kind of stuff. All these kind of conventions have a tendency to usually have a tendency to get weird names from somewhere. So.
All right, let me visit the comments here real quick because there's
yes,
you in
absolutely.
here. So there's apparently been a lot of love in the comments for Shadow War, which I guess is a board game from GW. Are you gonna?
Basically, what it is it's GW's. It's basically Necromunda 2.0.
Okay.
It's using the original Necromunda type rules, but they've modified them and tweaked them a bit. But instead of using the gangs that you had in Necromunda, it's instead using pretty much whatever 40K, not whatever, but many different 40K groups. So they didn't have to produce all new molds and all new figures for the game. They just decided, hey, you know, you grab some orcs and you grab some Imperial Guard, and there's a battle going on. I mean, the battle's going on the planet of Armageddon as opposed to the planet of Necromunda. Armageddon is war-torn. Necromunda, not too war-torn, which is why it was gang combat. Armageddon is constantly like underneath the threat of war. So it makes sense that some Eldar just landed and got into fight with or whatever. But it's small skirmish battles. You don't have more than 10 models in your army. Orcs can go up to 20. I want to say the Genestealer cults can go up to 15, but the Grey Knights, their army is 3 to 5 models. That's it.
Yeah,
So,
I'm seeing the box set here. The terrain's interesting. The vertical terrain.
Yeah, the terrain is the coolest part. The original Necromunda came with colored printed cardboard with plastic connectors to keep the pieces together, and this new set, which is coming out actually on Saturday, is all molded, kind of cool looking, and catwalks and all kinds of cool junk like that. So
nice. Someone was also, or 12 Neef was also asking if anybody will be going to Nova or PAX Unplugged, which I had to look up. I didn't know there was a PAX Unplugged. So
there is PAX Unplugged. PAX Unplugged is in Philadelphia in November. It's the first convention that the Penny Arcade guys are doing that's just going to be tabletop, not video games. Their conventions have been mostly video games, but they've been getting more and more tabletop involved in their last 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Well, I used to go to
my wife and I went to the one in Seattle in 2008, and there was some tabletop, but not much. Yeah, now they're doing this new thing, and I'm thinking about it, actually.
Gosh, I just hate going to the East Coast. It's so far away.
Well,
but
sure,
it does
I
look
get
pretty
that.
cool. No, the last time I went to PAX was 2012, and there was like, I think 65,000 attendees or something, and just had to sort of swim through people all the time, and I don't know about that. But I bet, I wonder how PAX Unplugged is going to do, because there's not too many conventions that are, you know, big or even kind of close to Adepticon size for just tabletop. So I don't know if they're going to try and get that. Yeah, but I mean, okay, so that's not board games as a primary focus, because that's the big thing with Gen Con, right? Like, it's a bit of a different audience. There's tabletop players, but there's a lot of them that mostly just stick with board games and then like dabble in tabletop.
I think PAX Unplugged is aimed at not just wargaming. I think PAX Unplugged is aimed at all tabletop games.
So they're actually trying to compete with Gen Con's market.
The case,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see what they do with that. And the LVO, I'm considering maybe going to it this upcoming February. I kept saying it, but I have never been able to, or something's gotten in the way. But now I'm in the situation where I think I might be able to pull it off. And I've never been to Vegas before, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But that'd be kind of interesting.
No, I recommend it. LVO is a lot of fun. Like, it's really cool.
LVO is something I've been looking at too. Last time I was in Vegas, I was 10 years old on a family road trip. And the only thing I remember was staying at a casino because it was cheap and wanting to watch people gamble, but my mom wouldn't let me because apparently it's illegal. And there was a car that was broken down on the side of the road. And the next day when we drove out, it was like down to its like frame, and the tires and everything were gone. It was just stripped. I mean, but that was like 20 years ago.
Sure, yeah.
I gotta go back.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's the fact that they're making it more. It used to be basically, again, kind of like Adepticon. It was just pretty much a 40K tournament, and now they've started to expand into a lot of things. Now it's seminars, and now it's moving into other game systems and things like that. And they have vendors and stuff like that. I guess guys from Mini Wargaming were there this year, I believe. I swear I remember seeing a couple of videos of Dave like interviewing some of the vendors and things like that at LVO.
Yeah. Oh wait, at where? At Adepticon.
LVO.
Oh, at LVO.
No, he was at. I think they were at LVO. Well, at least Dave was at LVO, because I remember seeing him talk to people at LVO, and I was like, oh, good, they went to, because I don't think he'd been there before. They were at Adepticon this year.
Yeah.
Area. The vendor area, it was very different this year than what you guys might remember.
Mario was saying it was like double the size.
Well, because it used to be, the way it works is it used to be, from what I understand, if you wanted to be a vendor, you had to donate stuff that was put into the swag bags. That's how you paid for your booth. You couldn't just buy a booth. You donated stuff that was put into the swag bags. So if you didn't really have anything, like if you had a service and you couldn't just put stuff into the swag bags, you were kind of out of luck. Well, they decided this year to change it, from what I understand. So now basically anybody, if they wanted to pay for a booth, could have a booth. I mean, obviously within reason, but really twice the size. And companies like Mario was there and he had a booth. He would have not really been able to. I mean, I guess he has those new base stickers that you can put on your bases instead of textures. He could have probably put some of those in the bag, but it was probably just easier for a lot of these companies to just be like, well, what if we just pay you for booth space? And so because of that, that's one of the reasons I think you saw there. And they were doing, other than just kind of hanging out and, pressing the flesh and meeting people, they were also selling silver vault memberships, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, they were selling T-shirts and vault memberships.
Yeah. And just talking to people, and they had like a contest where like if you did a selfie with some of their cool guns that they've got and stuff like that, and then there was a potential you could win something like that. So that was cool. I talked to those guys for a bit. It was good. I hadn't seen Dave since Valhalla.
Right, Valhalla.
So so that was good. Actually, I bought my airline tickets for Valhalla today. Yep,
all right.
yep.
Well, we know it's happening, so
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's cool. Yes. So it was good to see those guys. There was a lot of other companies there that were selling stuff. Games Workshop / Forge World had their big booths as usual. It usually had a big line, especially the first couple of days. I did actually buy these just for the 30th anniversary of the original first edition 40K Rogue Trader. They made a reprint of the original Rogue Trader book, the original instruction booklet and stuff like that. It's just completely brand new. I think you can only get it at conventions. I don't think you could buy it on the website. And I think it's going to be pretty expensive. But then I talked to a friend of mine on Sunday, and he's like, "Oh yeah, did you see those Rogue Trader books?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Yeah, I was thinking about getting one, but I don't know." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I bet they're probably pretty expensive." And he's like, "Well, they're $58." I was like, "Not bad." I mean, honestly, it's cheaper than the current 40K instruction booklet. It's cheaper, and it's still a good thick hardcover, probably a good inch thick, and all the old stuff from 1987 and all that stuff in it. So I was like, "Well, I got to pick one of those up." So. Yeah, it was cool to see a lot of the different companies that were there just doing all kinds of crazy stuff. A lot of laser cut MDF, a lot of laser cut acrylic.
Well, you probably Death Ray Designs and Tectonic are the ones I'm used to.
Yep. Yeah, and then several others as well. Ironheart Artisans, and a couple others I can't even think. Something Craft, Lasercraft maybe. But I bought some stuff. I bought something from Lasercraft, and I bought some stuff from Austin at Death Ray Designs, shipping containers and all that kind of stuff. And I bought some stencils for airbrushing, and it's just so much stuff I bought. Honestly, it was ridiculous. I bought a mat from Mario.
Back and have the pain of balancing out what all you spent over there. Plus just hanging out in Chicago, eating out probably every night.
See, that was the thing, is we didn't really we brought sandwich food and stuff like that, and so we were like eating usually lunch and dinner. We were usually just eating like up in the hotel room because we didn't want to like leave the convention center for 3 or 4 hours to go to someplace. And I did eat at the fancy restaurant in the hotel on Saturday at lunch because some friends that are local to the area came to visit and check out the convention, and so we ate there. Lovely, actually. But otherwise, I just pretty much we would just go up to the room and oranges so nobody got scurvy, which is important, and weird. They're called Aussie bites, and they're like a weird, like very high in fiber, really tasty, kind of like, I don't know, they're like a little tiny muffin, and they came in a big package. You got them at Costco, and they've got like apricots and honey and stuff in them, but then also flax seeds and quinoa and a whole bunch of weird stuff. And then you eat it, and then it was like you would eat one and you'd be like, I'm good for a while. Really, honestly, it's like they're very dense. So I don't know. Doing this as long as we've been doing it, I think we've been planning ahead to bring supplies. get cocktails as well. So we were set in that front.
Oh my gosh, the alcohol flows at conventions. It's insane.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's, but it's still generally pretty, people are pretty calm about it, and everything, which is nice. On Friday night, we had some drinks and played Click Clack Lumberjack.
Oh, I remember you trying to sell us on that game last year.
Yeah, well, I brought it again this year. It's like
you're like, when I come up to the hotel room, we'll interview. You play Click Clack Lumberjack. I've got a cooler of food. This is how Adam goes to Adepticon.
This is exactly the way you got to go to Adepticon, in my mind. I mean, if you're flying, obviously, all of that doesn't work. But if you're driving, it works out pretty well. Click Clack Lumberjack is like Jenga. It's like a little tree, but you have to hit it with an axe, and you have to knock the bark off, but not the wood parts. And so at one point, we were playing with. So Sam was at the table, painter Sam Lenz, and then another painter, Tom Ailes, who won the Slayer Sword in America in 2013. Another guy named Jeff, who won the Slayer Sword in 2009, I think. And it was like all these just hanging around. We're drinking and hitting this dumb little tree and knocking parts off of it and having a good time. Like in the main hall, like where people were walking by. Kind of. Actually, we just took over the next to where the Cage guys had been demoing earlier in the day because it's just a good place for walking by. Later on Saturday, I met Duncan, the guy who does the painting tutorials on Games Workshop's website. Duncan Rhodes.
Did you guys see
his stuff?
Yeah.
So on Saturday night, they have this big thing called it's the Armies on Parade. On Saturday during the day, they have the team tournament for Warhammer 40K. And part of the team tournament judging is people do these humongous display boards because there's 4 people on each team, so they can spend more time on these humongous display boards. And all the best ones, I guess, ones are just the ones that do it. They all, in the evening, all pull out into that main hallway where all the demos happen and stuff. So people can walk by, and there's like a rope up so you don't go up and touch them and stuff like that. But you can walk by and look at all the stuff on Parade. And we were area, and then I saw Duncan over there, so I went over to say hi to him, and we chit-chatted. I had said hi. I just wanted to stop and say hi. I watched a bunch of your stuff. My name's Adam. I've got a channel called Tabletop Minions. And he's like, I recognize the voice. I'm like, well, yeah, I get that a lot. So, but yeah, we talked for probably about 5 minutes. He was lovely. We took a selfie. That was the one selfie that I took
and then he
this year.
ate from your cooler. Yeah.
I didn't have the cooler with me, so he didn't get it. If he wanted something, I could have gone upstairs and got something. I was on like the 6th floor. And then we went upstairs and we hung out, and now we're pals. No, yeah, but I don't know. Like next year, I'm thinking about maybe guys have usually like an office at the convention center that they do their shooting in, and the guys who run Adepticon have offered to me in the past, you want to set your stuff up in an office like that, and I'm kicking it around. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
It all depends on if you can bring
because
the cooler.
Well, it's not so much that. I kind of like doing it in the hotel room, but it is difficult and a bit snug, but it is sort of fun, to have this. It doesn't look as I want to say it doesn't look as professional, which if you watch the video is kind of obvious, but yeah, it's fun.
Did you get to see any Plastic Sisters of Battle?
I did not. They showed a video about. Death Guard models, just a vague video, but we didn't see any of the platform either. So, yeah.
See any 40K orc players yelling "wah" all the time?
Did hear a bit of that. I did hear a bit of it, but not too much. It was. I mean, the tournament's huge. It really is.
Mm-hmm. The problem is the orcs in the current edition are just very hard to have fun with.
You had a decent amount of. You guys had a decent amount of fun during Valhalla. Oh
yeah. The orcs are still plenty of fun. It's just a competitive environment. They're not going to flourish, unfortunately. Well, who knows? There's a new edition coming out. There's always hope.
True.
Yes, new edition, new sisters. Maybe there's hope. Oh. Gosh, when you're talking about Adepticon, though, I think one of my favorite things about going to Adepticon is seeing all the dioramas. Like, those are always such spectacular pieces to see what people have been working on all year. So, you see, like, you mentioned some of the ones in the team tournament room, but I mean, was there a separate display where they usually have it out in like the hall for like 2 hours before they all disappear?
Well, that's for the team tournament one. So on Saturday night after the team tournament is over, they bring all that out in that long hallway, and then you can and people are just all congregating out there and looking at the cool stuff. But yeah, those are the cool dioramas. The crystal brush this year was, as it is every year. I mean, it's like so Sam entered 3 pieces. He won a gold in. So it was a unit of 3 of the Age of Sigmar orcs, and the thing that was cool about it was that each unit of these 3 orcs from that piece was a piece that he did on a painting tutorial on Tabletop Minions, where he was showing how to do object source lighting. So that's one of them that got a gold in that, and then he won a silver for large creature vehicle or something like that. One was the Archaon, also from Age of Sigmar, shown how he did the lava base on that one, which was really cool. So to see that those are the ones that got him some prizes. And they actually changed the prize money this year, that only best in show, and then or silver and bronze for that best in show category, gold, silver, and bronze, and that they were the only money winners. Now I believe that gold in every category wins like a couple $100. So that was kind of nice. It's no longer a zero, all or nothing kind of a situation. So
well, a lot of people put in a lot of time on those miniatures, so it's probably nice to spread that around a little more.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like I think it's the last 3 years, the winning, like the big winner, the big best of show has been built. Like they don't, and that was again the case this year. It was this space wolf with this giant honking wolf next to him, and it was, I mean, like the model himself was probably almost 8 inches tall. So again, that's a complete build. That's not built from a kit. So
I heard it was
kind of seems as if these things are like, and the last 3, I think, like I said, I think it's the last 3 years, everything's been hand sculpted. It's won the big prize. So it's almost to the point where, like, if you don't hand sculpt, you're not going to win the $10,000. So that's a whole nother level of
it's just like
skill,
a different kind of competition anymore.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So obviously Dan never got his red-eye flight out there.
No.
Have you reached out to the convention? Because I know you bought tickets, which means you have a swag bag out there somewhere.
Yeah, you just don't get it.
Oh.
And I was even like trying to figure out like someone to pick it up for me, and they're pretty strict with ID and everything. Like I'm maybe if I tried a little harder, but it was oh well.
Sad day. Well, I wonder what they do with the leftovers then. People who didn't pick up their swag bags, like where those go? The employees.
Yeah, I don't actually know. Like the swag bags this year were really good. Like I said, I ended up getting a swag bag, and it was Rune Wars. All the swag bags basically got Rune Wars, but I got a copy of Rune Wars, and there was more stuff in the bag, and then there was also, like I said, that big hard case from Games Workshop, and so that was kind of cool too.
Nice.
It was.
No, that seems really
cool. It was nice.
You didn't get to do a whole lot of demos though, like not as many as you wanted.
No, not at all. Actually, I didn't. I wanted to do a bunch of demos, and just because I was really busy all the time, I never really got to do any. So that was kind of a bummer. But just stuff. I did try to get Rune Wars demo just to see what it was all about, but to the Fantasy Flight booth, they were completely. I mean, there was always somebody getting demos. So when you give a ton of people at the convention a free copy of your game, a lot of people are going to be wanting to find out how to play it from firsthand. And plus, there were plenty of people who just ripped it open and just started playing it, there at the convention. So
Nice.
That's cool.
So yeah, it was a good time.
Have the big the sea game again?
With the pirates?
Yeah.
No, they didn't have the pirates this year.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was all about. I know that there was some sort of issue a couple years previous, but I don't know the complete particulars about it. Some big, there were still some pretty big games. There was a big Ash, actually, from Guerrilla Miniatures Games. He was kind of, when I was talking to him for a little while, he was running a big game of Frostgrave. So They had a bunch of dungeon all built and painted, I think, by I know it was all Death Ray Designs stuff. It was kind of built and painted. I'm assuming Death Ray Designs built and painted it, but maybe somebody else did. And so they had this kind of dungeon crawl big kind of thing going on. They had probably, 10 different copies of the same kind of dungeon set up down this long table, and people were playing at different things. And then I guess at the end on Sunday, they sold for retail price, but they were already built and painted. So it was kind of a good deal, actually. You know what I mean?
That's really cool. Yeah, I know Ash got sponsored by Frostgrave to go and run events for them. Yeah.
They had a big booth too. Osprey had a big booth this year, and they were showing off some new stuff, and they had a bunch of their awesome plastic models, which I could just go grab them. But I bought
They're over there.
last year, actually. I bought two. I bought the soldiers and I bought the cultists last year, and then this year it was what did I buy this year? Oh, the barbarians. No, I like those sets that they do. I think are really cool, and I'm glad that Frostgrave is doing well for them. So
Nice.
To see whether or not Games Workshop goes through all the stuff to make a new version of Mordheim, like people have been asking for, because of the fact that there's Frostgrave out there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It could happen.
Yeah.
Given the changes they've been making, where they seem to be responding and listening to the community some more. I would be surprised.
Well, and that's what they're doing,
Mordheim was a
obviously,
game.
with Blood Bowl. They obviously, decided that was the thing they should lead with. So they made Blood Bowl and made that happen. And those are all new sculpts, too. With Shadow War Armageddon basically being a new version of Necromunda, they could put out this set with new terrain, but they didn't have to make new models. With Mordheim, I kind of assumed that they would make it Age of Sigmar based. And I don't know. They may look at Frostgrave and go, do we want to even climb that hill? You know what I mean? I don't know. If there wasn't something out there, if Frostgrave wasn't out there, they'd be like, well, obviously, that's a place we can take back. But because Frostgrave's got as much traction as it is, maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe they're going to focus more on Battlefleet Gothic and what's the other one?
Well, on 8th edition.
Epic. Well, yeah, but I'm talking about just for their specialist game stuff, all those things.
So I don't know.
But no, 8th edition, obviously.
So I don't know much about Frostgrave, but is it more like a campaign like Mordheim? Like you level up your guys?
Yeah, the Frostgrave is got a very kind of almost D&D-esque sort of thing to it. Your henchmen are not. How's that? So in Frostgrave, I'm sorry, no, in Mordheim, if you went with a specific faction, or different than say a different faction. So if you went with the Possessed versus the Reichlanders or whatever, or general henchmen, and transfer back and forth between those factions. With Frostgrave, the henchmen are the same no matter what faction you're with, because you're not really with different factions. It's your wizard and your apprentice. Your wizard and apprentice are maybe elementalists, or maybe they're necromancers, or maybe they're whatever. And if you decide, well, yeah, I'm getting tired of the necromancy thing, I decided I'm going to go back to elementalism or whatever, you just swap out those two guys. But all the thugs and the bowmen, they're all just generals. So you don't have to swap the entire army to go to a different faction, you just swap the two, main people. But the thing is that nobody else levels up except for the wizard degree, the apprentice. And if the wizard dies, then the apprentice becomes the wizard, and you have to get a new apprentice. But they're the ones that are getting like new spells and new skills and stuff like that. The guy who carries the sword, he's just always the guy who carries the sword. So he's not getting upgraded.
No, it seems
so
like
it's a cool system that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's still plenty of interest in Wartime. Like, there's still people who play, like, quite often.
Oh, yeah.
My local group is going to start up a local, like, Wartime campaign just to take a break from other games. Like, it's still great.
Wartime board at Valhalla last year, if you remember, and I'm pretty sure that will be back again, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, no, there's definitely love.
Yeah, I agree. I just wonder if they're going to look at the and maybe decide to go in a different direction for a while, like, because there's really very little out there. Like, there's Firestorm Armada, to some degree Drop Fleet Commander if you want to get into spaceship type games, but there's, I think, still a lot of love out there for Battlefleet Gothic, and so I would almost think that they would maybe pull that in before they'd pull in maybe something like Mordheim, but yeah, I could be wrong. So
that sounds right.
This is that, and what's interesting is that we'll know more than a week out now, because Games Workshop doesn't do that anymore, where they only tell you stuff like a week out, and they have, they have actual like press like conferences to some degree at things like Adepticon. I have a suspicion that if they'll probably have something like that at Gen Con. They'll probably have something like that at LVO. Mm-hmm. The thing that was really interesting to see for me as a nerd, like a tech nerd, as opposed to just a general nerd like the rest of us, is to see their live streaming setup they had at Adepticon. They were live streaming to Twitch. Yeah. So in the room that had the Age of Sigmar and Kings of War and other fantasy games, they had like an entire corner of it, and they had like lights set up, and they had like a scaffolding so they could have cameras from above over the tables. They had Eddie and the other guy whose name I can't think of were like color commentating and stuff. Like, they had a huge giant screen set up so we could see what was going out live onto Twitch. Between them had a big touch screen, so like when the camera was pointing at stuff, just like Madden, they could like circle, this unit of guys over here is going to go over here, and it was just, it was crazy. It was just absolutely crazy. But they were running it all the time, like just about all the time, and thousands of people watching tournaments and stuff like that there at the convention. I want to say on Saturday afternoon they had two different 40K games going on, and one of them was players on one team were the heavy metal painters from England with like their like in-house ultramarines, like they've been on the covers of all the boxes, like models and stuff like that. So they were playing this amazing looking army against these other guys who had also brought in a very nice looking army, but that was really interesting.
That's awesome. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
I've not watched. I mean, I do too. But I don't know. Like, I haven't watched really much Twitch specifically. Like that kind of live stuff. I don't know. You have to. I think like it works really well for video games, obviously, because there's zillions and zillions of them. But if you want to make a battle report that's in live, stream, you have to go very above and beyond. Like the stuff that you do, Miranda, when you're doing a battle report, it's not obviously being live. You're editing it all together, and it takes a lot of work. But because of that, it looks a lot nicer. I have seen people who try to do a battle report by just putting a GoPro above the table and then just letting it run, and that will tire out anybody. You know what I mean? Generally. So with them, the color commentators and the circles and the arrows and the whole deal, that I think makes it a lot more interesting. And then it's just amazing to see. They didn't have a Facebook page. You know what I mean? Like Games Workshop didn't really have they had closed their Facebook page 2 years ago. Now they're selling subscriptions to live stream on Twitch, and they do it like all the time. So it's an amazing kind of 180 to see from the company.
Well, I mean, new CEO. Drop Podcast mentioned that GW Twitch requires you to pay right away, though. Like they have no sample or free content, so that's pretty typical. So.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, but then also, from what I can tell, their quality is super high. So I can kind of understand it a little bit, like because I was looking at the cameras and the things that they were using and stuff, and I was kind of like, rented these locally or they've shipped them over, and they don't look cheap. You know, I mean, this is not like a couple of GoPros attached to like a laptop. They had like guys behind the scenes who were sitting there working the screens and doing stuff and all that jazz, and I was like, I was surprised and impressed. So.
Fair enough. I mean, they're putting good equipment in, and that makes sense. Like, you're making, gosh, feels like it's getting too close to like esports, or trying to make it very much honestly, like a sports cast. Where you're like, I don't know if this is really the same thing. Like, they don't do that with chess championships.
Well, I think it's just because people aren't as likely to watch to some degree. You know what I mean? Like, esports are getting huge, and I've read some things that say, like, marketers who are in that arena who believe that in probably 10 to 15 years, esports will be bigger than baseball. Football, basketball, esports. Well, yeah, I mean, baseball, but just the fact that America's pastime is soon going to be overtaken as far as like viewership and things like that by games is very interesting. So, yeah, I don't know. And the fact that it's so easy.
It's interesting. It is interesting. I don't know how healthy it is. But.
Yeah, but there's like baseball games, like 5 games a day for like 2/3 of the year. Baseball.
Yeah, there's a lot of baseball.
So much.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They could cut it down a bit, maybe. That would help. A lot. But yeah. So it's interesting. So, see that setup and everything, because I had never seen like their setup before for that kind of stuff. I knew that they were doing things on Twitch. It was pretty impressive to see all that stuff and just to kind of watch. And evidently, at some point, somebody in the Tabletop Minions Paint Showcase Club on Facebook and they took a screenshot because I was standing there, like they could see me in the shot because I was like watching and looking at all the equipment and stuff like that. And so they spotted me in the shot, and then someone took a screenshot and put it up on the Facebook group. So that was kind of fun. I didn't realize that was a TV.
Fantastic.
So when I went to the Lock and Load, I guess it was almost 3 years ago now. The final game that was like broadcast live, I was just following because they had like a bunch of different camera angles, and I would just follow the camera angles and like pop my head up and around people and make funny faces. I had no idea if anyone would pay attention, but then apparently a bunch of people saw afterwards. It was a whole lot of fun. Just trying to be like,
we should do some live streaming from Valhalla.
Yeah.
We could. Like the internet's like good enough now. Like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the internet was just like really spotty and barely there at all. But now like
they keep upgrading it. It's good, fast enough. So
maybe a possibility.
But what would we live stream? Because the problem is I never slept like the whole time I was there. So you're just gonna catch me like
that's true.
Like hanging over a railing or something. It's gonna be.
You're just sticking in the corner. Yeah. Stick in the corner.
Well, I know Dave.
Dave would
do his phone to Facebook. I think one of the nights, and he said he had a lot of people watching. So yeah, that was kind of interesting.
Enough. But Dave's a big superstar, so everybody's gonna watch him.
It's true. Very good point. Very good point.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm totally down with that. I think it all can support it now, so I would love to see more content coming out of there. Well, cool. Super cool on the Adepticon. I'm sorry. So sad I missed it. But I'm really glad that you've got some stories to tell me so I can vicariously live or pretend I was at Adepticon through your videos.
Sure, yep. I've got another video coming up soon. I'm going to probably do one about some of the stuff I brought home, a.k.a. an Adepticon booty video. Those for this upcoming Friday. If I don't, then it will be an interview that I did with Terry Latorco and her husband, Nathan Pullman. Nathan. I can't remember his last name, but I think it's Pullman. About being a wargaming couple. Because they're both wargamers and they're married and stuff like that. So I did an interview with them. And what else do I have to... I think that and the booty video are about it. As far as the content. When I was working with Beasts of War, I used to go to like conventions like Gen Con and Adepticon and make like 12 or 14 videos in a 4-day period. And I don't yeah, but it was mainly just all interviewing, like, you know, manufacturers and designers and stuff like that, and finding out what their new product was and things like that, which is great. And there's definitely a need for it. But now that I'm doing my own thing, I was more like, well, I kind of just want to like go and do the stuff that I wanted. That painting, the one that I did where I interviewed the 8 different painters and I asked them all the same 6 questions. That one's turned out really super well. A lot of people really liked it, and a lot of people liked
that in the comments that he really liked your pro painters video.
It was something that I wanted to do last year, and I just didn't get around to it. And so I'm like, well, I got to make sure I do it this year. And it turned out really, really good. It was good to talk to Chris from Mini Wargaming. I interviewed him and Sam and James Wapple, Kathy Wapple, Venturuela, and Tom Ailes and Jessica Rich and Tommy Back. I think it's 8 of them. So yeah. Yeah, it was cool. And I'd like to do something like that again next year. I basically got the questions. I got 5 of the 6 questions from my patrons because I said I wanted to ask pro painters about how they went from beginner to like intermediate or whatever the next level status is. And so I should ask, and they gave me a bunch of great ideas. And then I threw in one extra one, the last one, about how many times have you dipped your paint in your drink or have you drunk your paint water. Because when I was at that seminar with that guy from Massive Voodoo showing us a whole bunch of stuff and working a head down, and he took his brush and he nearly put it in his drink, and then the last second pulled away and then moved it over, and he didn't say anything about it or anything. I just was watching, and I was like, and so I thought that would be a good question to ask as well. So
fair enough. Well, I think we're actually just about at the hour mark, so we gotta wrap it up. But Adam, thank you so much for coming on. I love hearing your stories about all of this stuff. I know that's why people love going to your channel and hearing your calming, familial voice. So
people in the chat were asking, "Why is Dan so quiet?" I was just so soothed by Adam's voice.
Now you know how to get to Dan. It's through Adam, guys.
That'll happen. Well, thanks for being on, though. Yeah, I appreciate talking, and I'm looking forward to Valhalla, obviously, because I'll see both of you there. I know I'll see you there. Will I see you there as well, Dan?
I will definitely be there.
That's right. He doesn't get a choice. I will find him.
All right.
I'm dragged there every year. It's a horrible experience. I don't want to go, but I mean, I gotta.
It's just like a family reunion for him. He just
It'll be cool now that I
gaming.
Know how things are working in there, and like what I'll know maybe a little bit better what to bring. And I definitely want to play something. You know what I mean? Like last year I didn't really play much, and so I want to definitely play something. I want to play something next year at Adepticon too. I brought my Age of Sigmar stuff. I was going to play a game with another YouTuber, Mitch, MC1 Gamer, and then I just wasn't able to, and I ended up talking to people and stuff, and it didn't work. And then I had my seminar, which I had forgotten about, so I actually did have to go do that. But then I had brought my bag all the way to Adepticon, and like a third of my models were not actually in that bag. They were here on the table because I had been taking pictures of them. So I'm like, well, if I would have sat down to play, I wouldn't have had a third of my models anyway. So yeah.
Dan's done that before. He's played on borrowed armies completely at Adepticon.
Sure. You know.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, just make it work. Just have some fun. I mean, you have a slight advantage being a YouTube personality. I don't know if the regular Joe Schmo could be like, I'm just going to buy these models and we're going to have a good time. But
oh my gosh. Anyway.
Yeah, last time I was at Adepticon, I didn't even have a place to stay, and I lucked out because I have good friends. Family and
That's the way to do it.
Well, all right. We're gonna sign off here. Adam, again, thank you so much for joining. Of course, you're with Tabletop Minions, so if you're coming to my channel, which is now smaller, and haven't heard of Tabletop Minions, definitely check out Adam and watch his Adepticon videos and all of his videos. And Dan, he might make videos someday if we all keep saying we believe, and more stuff from me eventually. So don't worry about that. Cool. Well, thank you all. Let's all say goodnight.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
See ya. Good night.
Bye.